This is the Business Growth Hacks Podcast, presented by Beefy Marketing. Here's your host, Andrew Brockenbush.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast episode. I've got a great guest for you guys. I'm hanging out with my boy John. We haven't done a podcast together in a few weeks, man. It's
been a while.
It's been a minute. I just told my assistant before I walked to the office, I was like, Desiree, I don't know if I know how to podcast anymore. It's been a little bit. So let's see if I still can do it. Small Business Nation, thanks again for tuning in. If you didn't know, we got a brand new sponsor on the show, Wingman. We are brought to you by them. You can check their website out, trustyourwingman.com. They've got an amazing software to streamline your communication, automate your processes, and grow your business with their incredible automation software. Make sure you check that out. But like we always do, let's kick this thing off with an icebreaker.
Let's kick it.
Icebreaker.
All right, David, we got one for you. What's your favorite board game or card game, and why do you enjoy playing it?
So it's funny. I have two young kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we play this game. I was in meeting with some programmers in Europe, and I wanted to bring them back a toy, so I brought them back a card game called Doble, which in the States, I guess, is called Spot It. And It's just super fun for the kids. It's like this card game where every card has different things on it. Like one will have, I don't know, like 6 or 7, like a chair and a moon and, 6 or 7 different things. And then you put out your cards and you have to find what's the same. So it's a lot of fun to like play with my 4 and 6-year-old. But for adults, maybe not so much fun. But if you're trying to, play with your kids, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you shared that because I have a little niece who always comes over to my house. We're actually neighbors. I built a house next to my sister, and my niece, she's 3, and she'll walk next door to visit me, and she always wants to play games that we have in our little game cabinet. But they're not games for kids, right? Like these are all games that are for adults, and she's just trying to play along. So I'll have to buy that one. I'm going to order that one today on Amazon.
Spot It. And I think there's a Paw Patrol version, and they've marketed the hell out of it. So yeah,
she's going to like that. John, what do you got, man?
Man, I know the board games, we usually end up playing with the kids. They like Crazy Eights. That's their favorite card game. And it's easy. So, yeah, that's why we play that one. But I think one of my personal favorite board games, even though it is a pain to set up, is Mousetrap. When Mousetrap works correctly, it is awesome at the end of the game.
All right.
I've never played it.
Oh, man.
There it is.
It's a Rube Goldberg machine. So
right.
I think that's why I like it.
I'm going to go either Scrabble as like a traditional board game. I like competing with or deciding whether or not the words that I think are real or not. Typically you have to have a dictionary handy just to see if I'm just making stuff up. I grew up in small town Waller where words are few. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And then the game that I probably like the most to just play when I'm with, a group of friends is that game called Heads Up. And it's like an app on your phone where you kind of do the little up-down thing. That is just a blast. Like, that's my favorite game. It's not a card game, obviously, or board game, but that is probably my favorite game to play with a group of friends. So,
it's awesome.
Well, guys, we have got a guest that I am honored to be able to speak to because I've been doing business with his company, his team since 2017. I had to go back into the archives, open up the email and see when I first started partnering with them. David Wachs is a serial entrepreneur whose latest venture, Handwrytten, is bringing back the lost art of letter writing through scalable, robot-based solutions that write your notes in pen. Handwrytten is changing the way brands and people connect. Prior to starting Handwrytten, David founded Sell It. Am I saying it right? A leading mobile marketing agency. Sell It was sold to Hello World in 2012. So he knows a thing or two about the agency space. He understands a thing about this creative world. And I'm excited to deep dive into why he decided to bring robots to the future of marketing and what he's got going on. David, thanks so much, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Andrew and John. It's my honor to be on this. So thanks so much.
Yeah. So obviously, go ahead, John.
Well, I was just thinking, wasn't one of our first hacks to use Handwrytten?
It was like one of our very first ever podcast episodes on the show was to use Handwrytten because like I'm a nerd for their tool. Like it's something that as soon as I learned about it, I was like, all right, like I'm going to use the heck out of this. And we took it like even further. Actually, within the last few weeks, we integrated ChatGPT to automatically write personalized letters to our customers and then send it to Handwrytten. So that's been a lot of fun, and we're looking to kind of just grow that part of what we're doing. But David, take us back, man. Before you started Handwrytten, why don't you tell us a little bit about your kind of your prior role in the marketing agency?
Yeah, and it plays directly into why I started Handwrytten. So prior to Handwrytten, I had a company called Sell It. We, back in 2004, so before the iPhone, we were the first company that did text for info on real estate. So you'd drive by a house, you'd want info on a house. There was no Zillow back then. So you would see a sign hanging from the real estate sign called a writer, and it would say text home 121-234. You would do that, you'd get back info on the house, the realtor would get a lead. You could even reply with your fax number to get a fax on more information on the house, because
fancy.
That's high tech, super high tech. But I quickly realized real estate was too nichey. So we expanded out, and we had a second product called Coupon Zap, which eventually became something called Sell It Studio. And there we just worked with major brands. So Abercrombie and Fitch, Toys R Us, Sam's Club, Office Max, Auto Trader, a bunch of for rent media. And there we just powered these huge text message campaigns, sending out 1 million text messages a day on behalf of some of these brands. It was all opt-in. It wasn't spam. But when I sold that company, I realized, everybody is getting 130 emails a day. They spend 23% of their day just managing their inbox. And then on top of that, they get text messages. I just got one. Tweets, Facebook, Slack, Teams, all the rest. People are literally overwhelmed with electronic correspondence. And I thought it's all, we were part of the problem. It was all just becoming noise. So what could I do to break through that noise? And I realized whenever I got a handwritten note, not only would I open it and read it, but I'd keep it and I'd put it on display. So handwritten notes hold a special place in people's hearts. What can we do to kind of, automate that and make it a little bit more, put it on automatic mode? And that's what Handwrytten is we are the largest company now that automates handwritten notes. We're also the oldest, and I'd say the best, that automates handwritten notes. So that's what we do.
That's so cool, man. How did you get into the robot world, though? Because it's like, okay, you had this great idea.
Yeah.
The great idea is, I want personal letters. But then, obviously, you didn't hire a group of 100 people to sit there with pens and write letters for people. So how did you get introduced to these robots that could do it? Or did you guys invent/create the robots?
We did. So when we started, we used an off-the-shelf machine called an AutoPen, which, not to insult AutoPen, it's kind of a crude device, and it didn't really pass muster. It didn't look fully authentic. But actually, probably when you started, that's what we used. Since then, we've built our entire own robot. So we've got a robotic arm sitting on top of a conveyor belt and a paper feed. And it's interesting, paper feeding is probably harder for us than writing the notes. But we have full end-to-end control of the process. We design our own handwriting styles. If you want your own, you could design your own. We do signatures. We've got celebrities with their own handwriting styles, etc. But how did I do it? It was one of these things where necessity, it's just, you got to get in over your head and figure it out kind of thing. So I have a computer software design background. I'm not mechanical, but I ended up finding 2 mechanical engineering firms to help me. The first one was a huge failure. The second one worked. They helped us get our initial robot, and then I brought it in-house. They taught my team how to build the robots. I hired a kid from Arizona State University to start building them and maintaining them. And we've just iterated over probably the last 5 years on the robot design. And now we have 175 of them. They're laser cut, 3D printed, custom circuit boards. I mean, the whole nine. We're always adding stuff to them. Like, as I was saying before the show, now we actually have to add features to allow it to do delivery confirmation tracking. So there's always new gizmos we're adding to the robot. And it's really kind of like a giant Lego set. So if anybody's in Arizona and wants to stop by us, we're in Tempe, and we give tours. So, feel free to stop by. But yeah, it was one of these things where we just banged our head against the wall long enough. And next thing you know, we have a robot platform. And once we have this platform, we can kind of keep adding things to it, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah. I love that so answer too. Yeah. I love that he mentioned that, the necessity to make it happen is what got it done, because I think that's so common in the entrepreneur space that there's no other option other than to make it happen. And what we're capable of when we're backed against the wall is quite incredible.
Yeah, it was. What happened was we had these auto pens, and then we got a really big meal box client. One of these companies that sends you all the ingredients to make meals, and they wanted a lot of handwritten notes, and we wanted to deliver, and we reached out to the auto pen company, and they're like, well, we can't sell you anymore or lease you anymore. And then, or they would just not answer the phone or ship them fast enough, because the company is kind of run by, it's a multi-generational business, and I just don't know if their head's in the game anymore. So we're like, we can't do this anymore. We have to have our own. So we just started, and we just built it up from nothing, and surprisingly it works. But it's complicated because it's robot software, robot hardware, and then there's stuff on the desktop computer to control the robot. I mean, it's a really complicated business. But it's good.
Yeah. That's the thing that's like so cool to me is I think people think about it and it's just like, oh, these guys just bought some robots and put them to work. It's like, no. Like that's like end-to-end solution, software, hardware, robotics, like technology, the website experience that powers all of that. I mean, there's a lot there so that you can streamline. I'd imagine at this point, you guys are serving more than 10 or 20 clients. You guys have a massive amount of people you're trying to serve. Yeah. What kind of volume do you guys, I mean, I don't even know if you know that. What kind of volume are you guys running?
It's about 20,000 pieces a day on a good day.
Wow.
And, it goes up, it fluctuates from there. Right. But, a big thing we are working with is how to automate more of the QA steps, because we have people that review every order. So there's just a lot of automation that goes into this to scale the business. And it's important because as we grow and as our clients grow, like we have clients that started in 2015 or whatever, and as they grow, they need a company that can send out 10,000 or 20,000 pieces on their behalf a day. So we have to do all this, and it's just been an interesting uphill battle, but an interesting one. So
you'd think that automation and personalization are counterintuitive, and this is something that I've actually spoken a lot about on past podcast episodes I've been on, as well as shows that me and John have done together. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how do you like maintain personalization in an automated world?
That's what we do. So our robots, they can write whatever you want, and we can design custom cards for whatever you want. So if you want to go super crazy, we could, you could design a single card for a single person, put their picture on it. You can even put a QR code. Either you manage that, or now if you reach out to our salespeople, we can do a trackable QR on there for you. And then the note itself, it's more, yes, putting Dear Andrew or Dear John on there is nice, but it's better if you include some really personal snippets. So what do I mean by this? You can, we have a bulk upload tool where you can upload 500 notes at once, right? What I would recommend doing is, and there's mail merge features in there. I'd recommend having first name as a mail merge field, whatever product they bought as a mail merge field, but then maybe also a personal section as a mail merge field. So how would this work? So let's say you're sending out Christmas cards and you say, Dear John, wishing you the happiest Christmas. And then you'd have a personal section. It was so good seeing you at high school graduation, or it was, nice running into you last week. So you, in your spreadsheet of 500, you just pound out a little personal sentence for each one. And that would help you, when you do the mail merge, create a full note that looks 100% personal. So that's one thing. Number two is signatures. You could always sign these with your actual signature. That makes it look really personal. Number three is if you're going fully automated, like Shopify or something like that. We have a Shopify integration. But if you're doing fully automated and somebody buys, let's say somebody buys the green leather wallet on your website, you can then create a recommendation that says, we saw you bought the green wallet. We really think you'd like the green backpack, and include that. So you're kind of doing recommendations based on that, or we really think you'd like the whatever the luggage set. It's our favorite, or so it doesn't even need to be personal. It can just have that personal feel. But what people will find is these notes really break through the din, and most people think they're personal. We have a piano tuner in Pennsylvania. He sends a handwritten note after tuning your piano. He doesn't see you again for a year. When he walks into your house a year later, that handwritten note is often still standing up on the piano because people value that he took the time to send a note to them. And then it's sitting there on their piano in their fanciest room in the house on their most expensive property. It's like a billboard sitting there. So it's kind of crazy the impact these notes have.
Yeah, I mean,
the impact of written word.
Yeah, it's just so impactful. I mean, I love the personalization component, and that's what I was kind of talking about a minute ago. Like, we're figuring out how do we even automate that piece, which is, again, it seems so counterintuitive. But one of the things we're doing as a part of like our onboarding process is we might ask give an example. We might ask the customer or the client, "Hey, who's your favorite author?" Okay, you give me the author name. Well, then I can power with ChatGPT. I can actually say, put a quote from the client's favorite author in context to this personalized letter, right? So now it sounds like I really was in tune with you, right? Like I thought about you, and I could do that with a number of things, like who's your favorite sports team? What's your favorite author? What's your favorite color? And I can ask ChatGPT to build a letter or build a note specifically taking all of those considerations into account. And then that letter gets sent over to Handwrytten. That part's fantastic. We do the same thing. We have an events company, and on the events company side, after we do a wedding, hey, thank you so much. We were, thank you so much for allowing us to serve you on your most important day of your life. And then ChatGPT, put a inspirational quote for a new couple or a new bride or a new relationship. Boom, it's all in there. It's like, I don't have to think about what's going to get put in there because it's just all automated and all powered, and it just makes it look even more meaningful and impactful.
I mean, you can. We've. It was actually the simplest integration we've ever done. We have this feature on our website now called AI Assist, which is exactly that. It's ChatGPT, so you can just go in. Back in the olden days, Andrew, when you used this, I don't know if you remember the templates where we try to come up with, because people would visit our website and they'd say, I want to send a birthday card, but I don't know what to write in it. So then we came up with these templates, and they're kind of so-so. But now we have the AI Assist feature. Those templates are kind of not needed anymore, because every single note could be a little different with a little different handwritten, message in there, thanks to the ChatGPT integration. So and then you can tie us with Zapier or Make or one of these other no-code, low-code platforms and just streamline the whole thing. I would get a little nervous personally if I had to write the note end to end without somebody looking at it first. But I mean, you could if you really trusted it.
We actually have a step in our process. So basically, ChatGPT powers the writing of the letter with all those personalized fields. And then our team internally, just if they press complete task, like they thought that it was a good letter, then it sends it over to you guys, right? So we've got that still quality check, because you still have to always double check. At least right now, there's still some stuff that comes back, and I'm like, I would never use that word. That is way 100%. Smarter than I am,
Or the AI doesn't quite understand your slang, and so it outputs something that's completely off the wall for a couple sentences. You always got to go and check for that stuff.
I heard yesterday that somebody was using AI and they were saying, summarize the front page of the newspaper, and it just wrote something that was completely not in the newspaper.
Right. Made it up.
And they said, well, where is this in the newspaper? And it provided a whole section in the newspaper that didn't exist. So you do have to double check it sometimes.
Nice.
But for the most part, it works. We use it for Code Copilot, where my developers are now blown away with what they can do with it just to write their own code. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's automation, AI, all of that. I mean, I think it just goes to show you, though, in a world where everything is advancing to that, there's still this need for human connection and personalization, which is honestly what caught my attention about your company. I don't even know how many years ago that was at this point. Because we had just read a book. It was called The Automatic Customer, and it was all about subscription-based businesses, recurring revenue-based businesses. We, at the time, our agency was all flat rate work, and I was like, this is just dumb. I'm constantly chasing work down. I'm tired of this. And I was exploring whether or not we wanted to switch to a subscription model, which we obviously have now. And that book talks a lot about the first 90 days of a customer's onboarding is the most important period in which a customer will avoid churn or potentially churn out in the future. So how do you keep the customer sticky? And so in that moment, I was like, man, we've got to do everything in our power to make those first 90 days memorable and special. And now like our first 90 days is very memorable and special. We send out this really cool box, and inside that box, there's a coffee cup and like a bunch of other cool swag. And then a few days later, we send them a card. Hey, super excited to have you join in our agency. We love working with local businesses. We're super excited to help you grow, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then we even take that same process and put it into play whenever we offboard a client or when we're wrapping up a project. So, hey, congratulations on launching a brand new website. We would love to send your full team a pizza party or a box of donuts or breakfast or whatever. And it's like, how many web agencies do you know that are sending a pizza party over to their clients? Like it doesn't happen. Like they don't know how to have that human touch. And so that's why I was like pumped about you guys in the first place. I was like, holy crap, like I can automate this stuff. And I'm talking about just like onboarding, but like there's so many other use cases. You've got like outbound sales. You've got, I mean, could you kind of talk about that? Like, can you give us some good use cases for y'all's service?
100%. So when you started using us, it was just, you'd visit our website, you pick a card, you'd write a note. Now and you can do it in bulk too, which is a huge time saver. Now you can do that. You can use that AI feature to save some more time. You can design your own flat card on our website. If you don't want to work with our designers, you can just design a flat card, put your logo on it. Looks really great. We printed full bleed. I'm dealing with the programmers right now. We're going to get a folded card customizer going within the next probably week now. I mean, it's almost done. So that'll be available for you guys. And you'll be able to even put a printed message on the top of the inside if you want.
Oh, nice.
And then as far as use cases, anniversaries and birthdays. Ooh. So you can just upload your client list and their birthdays or work anniversaries or personal anniversaries, whatever you want. And then we'll send birthday cards or thank you for working with us for the last year, whatever you want there. That's built into the platform. You only pay as the events occur. So it's not like you're paying up front. It's just like every time somebody's birthday, it takes out of your subscription or bills you or whatever then. We also have a prospecting feature. So you can circle an area on a map, say, send out handwritten notes to everybody. So if you're doing residential, you can say everybody whose home is worth X, 3 people in the household, 2 kids in the household, go. And then it'll find that list and send that out. And now we have the same thing with businesses. So you can say, send this out to all restaurants or all wedding venues or whatever, and then it'll send it out. So you can do that as well. We're coming out with a multi-step campaign tool sometime. It's kind of been pushed back on the timeline as we've done some of this other stuff. But, through our platform and then through integrations with Make and Zapier and all the rest, you can do some super robust things really easily. On top of that, we plug into salesforce.com. We have a very robust plugin there. So you can do bulk and individual, and then it records it back to the activity timeline of that. Same thing with HubSpot. We have a Shopify integration, which is super cool, so that if you run a store and you want to send out a handwritten note after their first purchase, or somebody spends a certain amount of money, or somebody is purchased 5 times from you, whatever, you can set up rules for that too. And now we're getting into the nonprofit space with our plugins for Blackbaud. And I mean, it just goes on and on. If you visit handwrytten.com, you can see all the integrations there. But, our whole thing is making sending handwritten notes easier than sending an email. So that's kind of why we do all this. But yeah, I mean, the main features are designing your own custom card, sending a handwritten note, prospecting, birthdays and anniversaries. Those are kind of the big ones.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
How do you guys make sure that it stays how do I say this? Like, how do you make sure that the authenticity and personal touch stays there? Because it is a robot, right? And you are picking a font. Is there any type of variation with inside of a specific font a client chooses?
100%. So back when you started, that's why I asked you if you still used us, because you started so long ago. Everything looked a little robotic then, but now The left margin jutters in and out. So if you write 3 sentences, or 3 lines of text, each line is not going to start at the same spot. It's also not going to start like way out here and then way out there. It's going to be it's going to be like that. So it's going to create a kind of a soft edge on the page because you and I don't write hard edge on the page. Second of all, it's going to vary the line spacing. So, you try to write pretty uniformly across the page, but your lines aren't always 100%. We do the same thing. We just jitter it just a little bit line by line. We also warp the text a little bit, so it's not fully just like across the page straight. It's ever so slightly off. And then we vary the characters in a lot of ways. So we have multiple A's, multiple B's, multiple C's, that type of thing. But then also combinations. So they're called ligature combinations. So how do you connect 2 O's? How does that look compared to 2 O's separate? How do you cross 2 T's? Do you cross 2 T's with 1 crossbar or 2? How does the Z look at the beginning of the word or the end of the word? So we do all of that to really try to create a robust, authentic looking handwriting style. I'm not going to lie. Some of the fonts that we started with, if I see them, I know they're written by a robot, but that's because I see them every day. If I see somebody's own font that they've designed with us, I have no freaking clue. And I see it coming off the robot. It's wild. Like you see the robot write it, and then you pull it out and you're like,
that could have easily been
looks
written.
like a human wrote it, especially if it has their signature or something. It's pretty wild there. But yeah, I mean, that's why I asked you if you're still with us, just because we've made a ton of improvements over the last 6 years.
I should probably order a new sample box because we still do use you guys, not as often as we did way back in the day, which we really want to get into doing more of it. But at the time I was seeing the cards. Now I just dropped. Obviously, things are getting sent to clients. I don't even know what they look like. But I remember whenever we first started with you guys, it was I don't want to say robotic. It was just too perfect. It was like all the lines lined up, every space was perfect, and it was just like, yes, it looks handwritten, but it also looks like a perfect handwriter. Like the best calligrapher could have written it, right? So I love the fact that you've got that kind of variation built in now to kind of create some natural, organic looking content.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time on that, a lot of time, and happy to send you another sample kit or whatever. But you'd be very hard pressed now to notice if it's written by a robot.
I'm excited. I'm gonna upload my own handwriting, my own signature, and just start doing everything. How much in the celebrity space do you guys? Do y'all work a lot in the influencer celebrity space, or not much?
Yeah. So we have a very prominent football star using us, which is weird. You wouldn't think a football star would use us, but he does. We've got some big social media influencers. We've got one actress who has a side hustle brand that's worth like untold fortunes, but and I speak to her mother every now and again, which is quite lovely. So we do have a lot of celebrities. Overall, we have about 400 custom handwriting styles for these people. We have about 30 handwriting styles that are available on the site, or 35 that anybody can use, and then about 400 custom ones. So, it's out there, just, we don't really talk about it too much.
Yeah. I've got a question for you that I promise, I ask it at first, you might be like, hey, that's a little personal, but I promise you it actually applies to what you're doing. But what has been y'all's outbound marketing strategy, right? Like you create one of the coolest outbound products technically that could exist. What does y'all's marketing strategy look like? Is it digital? Is it outbound? Is it inbound? What does that look like?
It's all, I'm not going to lie, like sending a bunch of handwritten notes is expensive. So for outbound, it's because postage is 63 cents going up to 66 cents just for the stamp. So, if you want to send 100 of them, it gets very expensive very quickly. So we use it more for inbound retention, staying top of mind, that type of thing. We do outbound so what we'll do is we want to go to conferences, but it's less important to have a booth at the conference than it is to get the attendee list to the conference. And then we set up meetings in the lobby, before and during the show. So if we could attend a big trade show, we'll get the list. We'll try to buy the attendee list and the mailing addresses, or just the attendee list. We'll figure out the mailing addresses. We'll then send them all a handwritten note saying, this is what we do. Can we meet with you? We'll get a whole bunch of meetings. We'll have those in the lobby or restaurant or something and do it that way. So we tie it to events. We do send some cold, we'll pick a vertical. So we'll pick automotive, and we'll reach out to all the car dealerships in a neighborhood and send them all a handwritten note. We'll do that. And then finally, we have some lead capture tools on our website, our sample kit being one of them. I mean, we offer samples for free, but you will start getting handwritten notes from us and other things. And we'll use that as a tool to do prospecting. Outside of handwritten notes, we use Apollo.io, if you've used that one. It's kind of like Seamless.ai. It's a great platform. You can quickly find all the contacts you need, send them all a handwritten note or an email, blast them all an email. We used to do a lot more SEM than we do now. We've seen, reduction in value of SEM. So we're trying to get more creative with our advertising spend than just blowing it on SEM. But we spend a lot of money on SEO. The problem with SEO is we get a lot of what I call vanity traffic, where, we get a lot of traffic on the website, but so what?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
They're not converting.
Yeah.
So we're really working on our conversion strategies now, trying to drive people to our lead magnets and that type of thing. It's kind of everything and anything and everything. But right now, Apollo.io for emails and handwritten notes for conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. SEO is one of those hardest ones. Like, obviously, it's a service we offer, and it's a hot topic a lot of times with businesses. But man, it's a vanity game. If you don't have a really good conversion method put in place, it's just like, man, like, shit, we're getting a great ton of traffic. Like, we had one of our clients who they're an academic coach. They're a pretty big. I don't want to call them a tutoring company because they serve a higher profile client. It's academic coaching is what they call it. But they're getting a ton of traffic to their blog for what time should school start, because they had a blog post about it. It's like that doesn't help us at all. Like, that's kids who are like, I don't want to go to school at 6 a.m. And it's just like the traffic on that was bouncing at a crazy 90-something% rate, because there was nothing for that person to take action on. So I totally can see that. Are you doing any podcast advertising? Obviously you're being a guest on podcasts. Are you doing any like advertising on B2B podcasts or anything like that yet?
So there's, in the real estate space, and real estate is an important vertical of ours, there's a group called Lab Coat Agents, and we did a 3-month sponsorship of Lab Coat Agents, their podcast, their website, their blog, all of that, their video podcasts, and it worked to some degree. We need to, figure out the correct strategy moving forward. It was a little expensive for the return we got, but we're open to anything as long as there's an ROI on it.
Sure. Yeah. And that's I would imagine that could be a challenge in y'all's business specifically. Would be, it's a perk for, I think, business owners, and it could also be a hard part for you from a conversion perspective, is the fact that you could send as little as one card, or at least you used to be able to. Is that still the case?
Yep.
It's like that's hard.
Yeah, the margin is thin, the cost per acquisition is high, because we're competing against some also ran handwritten companies, some companies that have kind of knocked us off, that are not the quality, not the service, and charging less. It's like you deal with that race to the bottom. And then they're also, it's causing confusion in the market. The margins are tight on it. So we're dealing with all of that. But once we get the big luxury brands or car dealerships, that's what makes it really worthwhile. And we need to stay laser focused on those industries. Real estate's tough, I'm not going to lie. But the thing is, with real estate, we just get so many inbound leads that we have to follow up on them. But to go out and proactively market to realtors, it doesn't make sense for us. But car dealerships, luxury brands, retailers, e-tailers, insurance agents, solar panel installers. Like we have a bunch of industries that are really kind of important. And if any of your, obviously your listenership, because they all are trying to automate what they're doing, that's what we do. That's our sweet spot. So we could talk offline about your marketing.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many tools that I tell every customer about, and I can genuinely say that Handwrytten is a product that I've probably told 1 out of every 2 customers as far as I've mentioned it.
Well, I'll have to send you some swag. I'll send you some swag after.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We just actually were in a meeting. We're in a meeting with a nonprofit about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were like, "Man, it's taken us so much time to send every donor a thank you card every year." And I was like, "Dude, like, why are you writing these thank you cards to your donors? Like, you could literally automate that, you know?"
Yeah, nonprofits are a huge vertical for us. So, I mean, it just makes so much sense. If somebody does a $100 donation, why wouldn't you follow up with them? I mean, the number one issue in nonprofits is redonation. So you get a customer, you pay a lot to acquire. You pay a lot to acquire a donor, and then the following year, the redonation rate is only about 42%. And the reason is people don't feel thanked. And that could be you sent them a bulk email that they didn't open. You sent them an email they did open but looked fully automated, and they still didn't feel thanked. You sent them like a printed piece in the mail that looked like junk mail or a request for another donation, so they didn't feel thanked there, even though inside was a thank you note. But handwritten notes get open, they get read, they get kept. So it's truly impactful on improving redonation rates there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me share an objection that we've had, because I would love to hear if you've got a good kind of rebuttal, because I think this would be helpful for me and for other nonprofits that may or may not be listening to the show. But one of the things I hear is, we've got to be careful about how much we spend on gifting to our donors, because then our donors think that we're wasting money on nonsense. Like, hey, like we donated because we wanted you to give money to the cause, not to just like buy us a nice dinner or whatever. So how do we kind of address that? Because I do think that it is important. Like, you already know it's effective. I know it's effective. How do we convince nonprofits that they should invest in this?
I think they're doing it anyway, right? Like they're trying to have these pizza parties and get a lot of nonprofits in the room to do handwritten notes. The problem is it costs them the pizza, and the speed of getting those out is less. The risk of somebody having messy handwriting or writing the wrong thing is much, 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 much higher. So, all these things, they're still doing it. I think everybody realizes saying a handwritten note, it's not expensive on a one-off basis. It's funny because some guy tried to get my SEO dollars, and he sent me this thing. It was FedEx to me. It was like this. It looked like a giant greeting card, and when you opened it up, there was an LCD screen.
Yeah,
and I was like watching, and the video was just total corporate blather. Like I couldn't sit through 2 seconds of it. But because I'm an engine nerd, I'm like, I wonder how this thing works, and I wanted to take it apart, all that stuff. But all I could think was, how much did this cost this guy, right? So how much margin is this guy making? If he's able to send out these crazy expensive video books to everybody, it sets the wrong impression. And on top of it, I didn't even watch it. It was, the video was dumb. But had he just sent me a handwritten note, which would have cost him $100 the cost, maybe not the 100th. Exactly. Okay, call it a 30th the cost of this thing. Like, it would have worked better. It wouldn't have set this tone of, gee, I'm going to bilk you because I'm going to make all this money off you. I just think people try to go to these whiz bang when what they could do is just get back to basics.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier.
And if you've been using those, I'm sorry.
No. We actually have a supplier that we can resell those. Like, we have access to them. They're crazy expensive. I think they have a place. But I think that, again, if you're going to do it, you better have the money to back it up. It also has the precedence that you said that it could come off like, oh, this guy's got a lot of money to waste on something that could get thrown away or chunked or whatever else. That's why we've never even sent any of our own. I was just like, man, that's a lot. It's a lot of money, even with us getting them kind of wholesale cost on them. Like, I'm not a fan of it. But I mean, shoot, you think about, traditional direct mail pieces where you have to at least send it 3 times, right? Because it feels spammy. Where if there's I know obviously, because I'm like in the world, but I get a personal note from, HelloFresh or somebody like that. And I'm like, ooh, they sent me a card. And I'm like, oh, those bastards just sent me another $10 coupon for free meals, right? So, it's that kind of thing. But at least I still opened it because it felt personal. And it's like, well, damn it, they got me, and I know the business. That's something we've not even talked about yet, though. But you guys, again, I've been a customer for a long time, so I don't know what you guys do and don't do anymore. But back in the day, you guys could drop in like Starbucks gift cards and like other types of inserts. Do you guys still offer those kind of add-ons?
We do, yeah. So we do Starbucks, Amazon. We got rid of Visa because of fraud. So we no longer do Visa, but we do Starbucks and Amazon, Best Buy or Home Depot. We have I don't know, about 15 different, maybe less, maybe 10 different brands and multiple denominations. We also have other things you can include in the envelope. You can include seed packets. So if you're a realtor or something or whatever, if you have a funny, because they're flat and they're relatively cheap. So we have seed packets. We've got instant coffee brands, actually 2. We have one out of Texas called Golden Ratio. And the reason is because the CEO of Keller Williams is really into Golden Ratio coffee. So we're like, well, let's offer this and maybe that. Yeah. So we have Golden Ratio, and then we have another one. The name is escaping me right now. But you can include those in the note, just kind of a gimmick. If you want to include your business card, we can do that. You just send them to us, and we include them with the orders. So yeah, I mean, we're always trying to come up with things. For Christmas, we're going to do a Santa thing where we have special cards that are from Santa, and we're going to send them with cinnamon and put in fake snow and all sorts of stuff. So
you ought to do a letter from Santa for parents.
Well, that's what's going to be.
Yeah.
So then we'll send it. You can send it to your kid, and it'll smell good, and it'll be all in fancy Santa writing. And
that's cool. That's really cool. That's a great idea.
And it'll include how you were naughty.
Right.
All that stuff.
You've been bad. You better be good, dog.
Unfortunately, this year you don't get the Hot Wheels car wash. Yeah. You just get this card because you were naughty.
It was Santa said so. It's not me. It's Santa. See, it's right here. It's on paper.
Yeah, it's right here. It's proof.
Last year I found chocolate lumps of coal, and I did give those all to the kids for Christmas. It was chocolate, but it looked like
that's
a lump
awesome.
Of coal. Yeah.
That's awesome. There's this place in Flagstaff, which is just like 2 hours from Phoenix. And I think it was started by ex-Disney Imagineers. So it's like this Santa North Pole experience that you take the kids and they go to the North Pole. It is so well done.
Yeah.
If you're ever, who would have thought Arizona would have the North Pole? But,
right.
It was. I was blown away with how much effort and detail went into this North Pole experience in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is crazy. So if you're in Flagstaff, go.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. I mean, there's just obviously we could continue this conversation down so many paths, and obviously you want to be respectful of your time. I think that the bottom line here is for business owners, they're looking to, create a personal touch in their business where maybe they don't have the time or bandwidth, or maybe they're already doing it and it's wasting a lot of time. This is really where Handwrytten shines, in my opinion. And it lets you reach people where you're not reaching them currently. It's like if you're going to spend, $2,000 or $3,000 on direct mail marketing, it's going to get chunked the first time, which means if you just take that $3,000, multiply it times at least 3 times, that investment's at least a bare minimum of a $9,000 investment because you have to send it at the very least 3 times before it's going to get opened. Versus they could spend that $3,000 with you guys and really target a really amazing list, especially if they're a realtor, an automotive facility, and now that you guys are off in the B2B list, like David, we're gonna have to have a secondary conversation about that. Like we're really wanting to focus our efforts for the next year only on nonprofits, which is ballsy, by the way.
Yep.
But
we should talk after the show about teaming up then, because that's like right after this call, I have 15 minutes later, I have a call with one of the major nonprofit CRM systems. So, I mean, nonprofits are a major, it just makes sense,
Yeah, I totally agree. So. And that space, man, there's so many applications in that world. And that's what and that's why we decided we were going to hone in on nonprofits. It's like we serve a lot of them already. And I was like, man, we could start making some really, really intentional content around like how to leverage technology, because a lot of these nonprofits, again, their boards, obviously there's a vast size difference between like your local nonprofit and these massive nonprofits, but regardless, a lot of them are volunteer board served, and technology is kind of like bottom of the list of things that they focus their energy and attention on. They're still doing those, like you said, pizza parties where everybody sits down and writes letters together. It's like, dude, like there's so much tech out there. And so we know that we want to create content around that and start teaching people. I know you mentioned Blackbot earlier. We have actually one of our nonprofit clients that uses those guys. And there's a bunch of other ones that are coming up, Donor Box, and there's so many. They're escaping my head right now, but there's so many really great platforms out there. And I'm like, man, like we've got to start creating webinars and podcast episodes and blog posts.
Yeah.
Like I want to educate the nonprofit space. And it was actually a conversation I had with this nonprofit executive who was in my office. And I was like, man, I've thought about focus on nonprofits. I was like, but they don't have money. And he just kind of like sat back and looked at me. He's like, bro, we do $6 million a year in one segment of our nonprofit. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
He's like, the reality is, he's like, nonprofits in some ways are underserved because people have that illusion that they're all broke. And the reality is it doesn't matter whether or not they're broke or not. Like, I think that there's a opportunity for us to serve nonprofits, both from an educational perspective and from a service perspective. Like right now,
I mean, what you're doing is you're helping people work smarter, not harder, right? You're with all this automation, and nonprofits more than anybody need to learn how to work smarter because they do have limited budgets and they need to get the most out of it. And, we help some very large nonprofits do just that. When they see response rates to these types of offerings for 27 times greater than printed notes, you can really get a lot more bang for the buck with a handwritten campaign sometimes than you can with a printed. And I'm not here to say that handwritten is the end all be all. I mean, text messaging, we use email. You got to have a suite of different, because you don't know how people are going to react to different things. But it should be part of the overall marketing plan. You should carve out part of that to do handwritten outreach, or just sit down and write it if you can and see the returns you'll get. And then you'll switch to an automated company because you'll see there's such great returns. You got to scale it up. So I mean, that's kind of, and nonprofits are a tremendous vertical. They need all your support, Andrew and John.
Yeah, seriously. And that's, honestly, we're excited about it. I think we've got a huge opportunity. I mean, for the last 10 years, we've been writing blog posts that were generically targeting small businesses, just not medical spas, not doctor's offices, not chiropractors, just social media for small business, SEO for small business, podcasting for small business. The reality is that's just noise. Like I'm not making an impact by writing that kind of content. And I said, you know what, if we can focus our energy for the next year only writing content for nonprofits, even if we only got one customer, we probably still will have made an impact in that arena. And honestly, like I'm okay with that. Yes, I want to make money. Like everybody's in it to grow their businesses and scale. But the reality is I think that we'll see a better ROI just in general for our own agency. But I think at the end of the day, we'll also make a greater impact, and that's the end all be all. So, again, David, this has been a fun conversation, and I think we could go 1,000 different ways. But I like to wrap every episode up with a bit of a business growth hack. So I'm going to roll a sound effect. So while I roll that sound effect, I'm going to let you think about it. If you could leave the listeners with one growth hack, whether it's something that they can do in their marketing, whether it's something that they can take action on today that would help them grow or scale their business or nonprofit, since we're on that topic, I'm going to let you give it to us, okay?
Hacks!
All right, David, what do you got for us, brother?
All right. So this could be obvious to a lot of you guys, but have a lead magnet on your website. So what that is a webinar, a white paper, a samples request, just something on your website where people have to fill in their information to get something of value. This should be in addition to your contact page, right? Contact us to learn more. Fine. That's not a lead magnet. A lead magnet would be click here and download our top 10 ways to avoid working with a bad marketing firm. Something like that. Now that's growth hack number 1 is have a lead magnet. Growth hack number 2 is learn Zapier and Make. Most people know Zapier. We use Zapier so much. Zapier did a full YouTube commercial on us that you might see.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's crazy. But use Zapier, and then if you like Zapier, check out Make.com. Make is super powerful. It took me a while to kind of get it, and I was just like, this doesn't do anything. But now we use it to automate a lot of our systems around here. So check out make.com too. But those are kind of the big ones. And then I guess the third would be there's a book called Guerrilla Marketing, and it talks about going to, I think they have a separate one called Guerrilla Trade Show Marketing. And it just talks about going to trade shows, not having a trade show booth, but working it without a booth and saving yourself 10 grand. That's a great resource.
I'm actually interested in that one. That's something we've talked about doing, and we've never not known how to approach it. So I'm sure you can give me some tips. Not that book, I'm sure will as well. So, man, David, thanks again for sharing all of this advice with them. How can people support you? What's on the horizon for Handwrytten? Where can people find you? All that fun stuff.
Handwrytten.com, handwrytten.com. Do fall for the lead magnet, request samples, because then you'll be blown away how good everything looks, and you'll get pricing and all that too. So go to the business tab and click request samples. On handwrytten.com at the bottom, you'll have all our socials, so our YouTube channel where you can watch all sorts of stupid videos, or videos featuring stupid me, I should say. You can YouTube or Facebook, Twitter, all that's on our social channels. And then, that's the story. I'm not that interesting on Twitter. I don't do much. So
you used to be pretty active on LinkedIn. Are you still pretty active on LinkedIn?
Yeah. David B. Wachs. Just look for David at Handwrytten on LinkedIn and you'll find me. And, I try to post there occasionally. Of course, like everybody else, it's a lot of self-promotion, but I'll put a video to this on there, but yeah.
That's amazing. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode. David, again, I appreciate every minute that you've shared with us today. I'm excited about talking offline, so I think there's a lot of ways we can work together. For those of you guys listening, make sure you check it out, handwrytten.com with a Y, not with an I, HANDWRYTTEN.com, handwrytten.com. Check it out. Listen to his advice. Those lead magnets will make all the difference on your website. If you want to support our sponsor, Wingman, trustyourwingman.com. Check out what they're doing. They've got some incredible software to help you automate your business, scale. A lot of the things we talked about today, text messaging, automation, email marketing, all powered by AI. So if you're not a creative person and you're looking to do it, that's the way to do it. Trustyourwingman.com. Until next time, we will see you guys later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Business Growth Hacks Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. To get more marketing tips and tricks, follow Beefy Marketing on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beefy Marketing. And to take your business to the next level, check out our website at www.beefymarketing.com.